kind of made it fun. And Boyer is he did a really good job. I couldn't get him in there at the end. That's that dirt racer coming out.
Those dirt trackers still had a solid top 10 day here at Dover.
We'll hear from more drivers. Carl Edwards, the largest points lead, but Matt Kenseth, your winner today. He said his biggest influence in his Cup career, Mark Martin, who talked Jack Roush into hiring Matt Kenseth. We're live in Dover, Delaware, where Matt Kenseth is your winner. More in a moment.
.400 laps, man. This place will eat them up, spit them out. Spun it, hit the wall on pit road. Fired up and roll, bud. Fired up and roll. No caution, no caution. This is a tough pit road. I have nightmares about lapping that guy. Great work, guys. Great work. I think you got him. Woo! Smoked him. Loose. I said loose 17 laps ago.
And the unofficial results for the FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks Matt Kenseth with his second win in the last 5 races, and Mark Martin right behind him. Kyle Busch, who did get near Kevin Harvick, but the two well-behaved, came from back of the pack all the way up to finish 4th.
Yeah, solid run there by Brian Vickers, also in Clint Boyer. I'm pretty sure he's happy just to finish the race because Jeff Burton, he had a pretty strong run today along with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, Jr. finishing 12th, so that winless streak goes to 104. Ryan Newman certainly in the top 10 in points, not much of a factor. Joey Logano and Tony Stewart had problems.
Oh, along with David Reagan, spun out on pit road. That really ended his day. But Tony Stewart, he never got going at all today. Probably the longest race ever for him at Dover.
Casey Kane, 36, with an engine problem, and an engine problem cost A.J. Allmendinger, who ran up front. Started on the front row as we round out the results from the FedEx 400. And let's bring in Darrell, Larry, and Mike for some final thoughts on a really interesting race that in the end, Matt Kenseth led only 33 of the 400 laps, but the most important ones at the end.
And we're still shaking our heads. Last Saturday night, we were sure that the car with 4 tires would win the 2-lap shootout over the car who took none. Today, with 30 laps to go, we're sure the car with 4 tires is going to beat Kenseth, who took 2, and Mark Martin, who didn't even bother to stop. We're wrong again. What's going on here?
Well, these races are just so unpredictable. But I do predict that that will continue. So anyway, no, today was fun, man. The racing was good. We had Carl and Jimmy up there dicing back and forth the whole way. Guys needed great finishes. Got them today. Matt Kenseth comes out of nowhere, wins the race. Mark Martin hangs on for a great finish. I thought it was a pretty exciting race.
Oh, it was a fun race to call, but Larry, do you need to rethink your whole race strategy with what's happened these last 2 weeks?
Well, I think Carl Edwards said it in his interview. It wasn't the fact of 2 tires. It was the fact of the number of drivers that took 2 tires. Because when Carl Edwards looked up, just like Clint Boyer, Jimmy Johnson, 3 drivers that pretty much dominated this race, they had 3 to 4 rows of drivers in front of them that had those 2 tires, and there just were not enough laps to get out there and catch them.
I got to take care of some business, guys. Happy birthday, Mom. I almost forgot. Happy birthday, Mom.
Glad you got that in. Well, let's meet with a fellow who's almost as happy as your mom today because he has tied his best oval track finish in NASCAR. He's with Krista.
Earlier this weekend, Marcus Ambrose said this would be the weekend your luck would change. How close are you to that first win?
We've been fast all year. We've just had some bad luck, you know. This is our second top 5. Best result so far for the Stanley team, you know. We've been through some tough times. Just learning my new crew chief, Todd Parrott. He made a great call, by the way, at the end there for 2 tires. Just really proud of my team, proud of my guys, proud of Rich Petty Motorsports. You know, we're coming. AJ was super fast today too, but he lost the motor, so bad luck to him, but really proud of our day.
And he told his team our first win is coming soon.
Thanks, Krista. And Marcus Ambrose, who said growing up he was a Richard Petty fan, even more of one, and obviously frustration for Petty Motorsports when Allmendinger went out, but Ambrose with a solid finish here at the Monster Mile. Jeff, as we take a look at points now through 11 of 36 races that matter, and Carl Edwards increases by 24 points, the largest points lead so far this year. And Jimmy, Kyle Jr., that's all pretty much the same. Look, Tony Stewart's gone to 10th. Mark Martin has worked his way up to 11th.
Well, I think the main thing right now, if you take a look at Tony Stewart, he's barely hanging on. Now, Mark's 11th, but you got to start looking at guys with wins and how that's going to affect everybody. We know Jeff Gordon will wind up being that 11th position, and that means Greg Biffle would wind up being 12th, and Denny Hamlin wouldn't get a chance to race.
Yeah, you got to be in that top 20, and then the wins help you over the points. But important for Matt Kenseth, his second win of the season already to join Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. So that you would think would assure you of a spot in the chase.
But they're running so solid right now. That's the other thing. Have got to 2 wins. That's going to allow this team to be more creative, take more chances over the next series of races leading into Richmond. And then when really the cutoff comes in, they have an opportunity now to experiment.
Kyle Busch is standing by with our Dick Bergman.
Kyle Busch from dead last with a car that you had to change the engine on, banged into the wall in practice. How did you wind up 4th today?
I don't know, but, we definitely started behind this weekend with the engine failure and then, getting knocked into the wall there, all my fault. I got the boys behind, but, they persevered and worked through it and did what they could to give me a good piece. And I don't know that it was very good out there for anybody, really. It seemed like it was really, really hard to pass, and a lot of guys really struggled with the rubber buildup on the surface. So we did, including. But if you can make up ground on them restarts, man, you had to try to do the best you could. And fortunately for me, I was in the right lane, and I could do that. I made the outside work, and the M&M's Camry for the first couple laps after a restart was pretty good, but then it just seemed like you couldn't go anywhere. So we gave it all we got. We came from a long ways back, and the guys on pit road helped me out too. So all in all, we're happy to get out of here with a 4th. That's pretty good, and considering now we can go to the All-Star race in Charlotte.
How physically demanding was today's race?
It'll wear on you for sure. It makes you think, it makes you work, and the thinking part was a lot harder to do today than it has been in the past at this place. But you're already at a physical demand, with the way you're sawing on the wheel back and forth, left and right, and trying to miss the rubber, sliding over the rubber, not meaning to, and just you're, as some of us put the term, your butt and elbows up in the air, man. So you just try to get all you can get.
Kyle Busch finishing 4th today after starting dead last following an engine change in practice.
Sounding more and more like a mature champion. We made a big deal in the pre-race because that's our job. That's what we do with him and Kevin Harvick. They were near each other. They played it smart. They focused on the racetrack, adhered to NASCAR's advice to them.
Well, I think they understood the big picture right now, Chris. I mean, that's the big thing. They talked about it. Both of them did, that they need to come in here. They need to learn something. They need to leave here scoring some points and getting information that will help them when they come back here in the fall. And I think both these teams were very strong today. Kevin Harvick was solid, along with Kyle Busch, and they basically said, look, let's just run our races and leave each other alone for a while.
Regan Smith had the great story last week. Well, Brian Vickers, who overcame heart surgery, was out of racing last year, back racing this year, an impressive finish for him. And let's check in with Chris Devoto, who's with Brian.
1 year ago, Brian Vickers was in a hospital. Are you back?
It definitely feels like it. Everybody kept asking me about Darlington, my last race last year. Going back to Darlington was special, but being able to finish this race and be here, thinking back a year ago, laying in the hospital bed watching this race on TV, it feels good. And also to have a good run. I mean, the Red Bull team did a great job. Early incident, trying to avoid Kevin at the start. The guys got the car fixed, and we were quick all day. We just needed track position.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Krista and Brian. We did try to catch up with Clint Boyer. Didn't feel like talking today. Certainly frustration. He's had 2 second-place finishes this year, and we know what he went through on Saturday too.
Right. I mean, this was kind of like a tough day. I mean, I think he had a car that he felt like he could win with, and he's probably upset about the call there at the end. I mean, after you have a tough weekend like you did on Saturday, sometimes when you feel like Sunday kind of slipped through your fingers, sometimes the best thing to do is just to leave. But we talked a minute ago about Brian Vickers. You realize how difficult it was for him. He bounced that car off the wall early part of this race and still was able to recover, didn't lose his focus, and come back and made a really solid finish right there with 2 tires.
A trend with the world's best drivers of overcoming some difficulty, even Kyle Busch working his way to the front. And Matt Kenseth, this seemed like a race where the crew chief had to make calls, and Darrell and Larry Mike broke down. There's really no formula for what's working in each case.
I think everybody finds themselves in a totally different situation. The 99, the 48, the 33, they thought the smartest thing to do, put 4 tires on, and even though somebody, elects to put 2, you'd be able to drive right back by them. They had enough laps to do that. But so many guys gambled, including Mark Martin taking no tires, that it really, I think, changed their game plan. And Chris, in the end, we found out there shouldn't be a game plan. It's whatever you have to do to make the best out of the situation. We saw that at Darlington a week ago when Regan Smith wound up winning a race by staying out. I think this is really going to play with a lot of crew chiefs' heads as well as drivers as we move into the rest of the season. What they're going to tell us right now is that, hey, there is nothing certain. You just kind of got to go with it.
All right, coming up, a tweet from Trevor Bayne and Matt Kenseth, who snapped a winless streak of 76 races earlier in the year. Now he's got 2 victories. More in a moment. Promotional considerations provided by 39-year-old Matt Kenseth wins for the second time this year, and from young Trevor Bayne, the 20-year-old Daytona 500 winner. As Matt talks with Kyle Petty and the folks over at Speed, we had a